You are listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Hey, welcome to I Am Refocused Radio. We are here once again, and today we have another show lined up for y'all today. We are going to talk to Miss Beth McDaniel. She is the president of one of the leading carbon capture coating companies in the world. And we're going to learn a little bit about her story, how she got involved in business, and a little bit all about the business. The website is reactivesurfaces.com. First and foremost, I want to welcome Miss Beth to the show. So how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me.
Appreciate your time. So before we talk about Reactive Surfaces and learn a little bit more about the company, tell us a little bit of background of you and how you got involved in entrepreneurship.
Yeah, well, that's been kind of a part of my life for most of my life because my dad was a scientist, biochemist. None of his kids, unfortunately for him, ever grew up to be scientists, but we did a lot of entrepreneurial things where, he was in the chemical business, but we would have, a house on the side that we would rent out and fix up and stuff like that. And that kind of grew into apartments and grew more towards a real estate end of things. So we were involved in commercial real estate and just general business. And I went to college and studied finance at the University of Texas and thought that I wanted to be a banker or a financial advisor. I did that for a while when I got out of school. And then I was like, not interested. It just didn't have that meaning. It wasn't meaningful to me. It felt like people were just kind of gambling, buying stuff that they didn't know in the stock market and then selling it. And it didn't seem like they really understood what they were doing. So that was not my bag, but I'm glad I have that background now because the business background has definitely helped me out. And then I worked for a while and then I went to law school in Houston, South Texas College of Law, and studied to be an attorney. So then I became an attorney. So still nothing having to do with science. And then I was in real estate, land development afterwards. And then I became kind of a general counsel within businesses where I would do their legal work, more their contract stuff, and just general business legal work. And then and then I married a scientist is really the anticlimactic part of my story. No, it was the greatest part of my life. And he's a great scientist and he was just starting a business and I got involved in that. And that business is called Reactive Surfaces. And and that's the business that we have developed a number of different technologies that we feel address very existential issues and that humans face. And so we're here to help in the way that we can, which is making paints and coatings, do something to react to their environment. So that's how I ended up getting into science. And I know a lot more about science than I used to, but I'm not the scientist. I'm more of the business development person and the president of the company. And then we have a scientific team and in a lab in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, in which alongside a university there called the University of Southern Mississippi, and they specialize in paints and polymers. And so, I'm not doing the science, but my husband and his team are on the science team.
And with that said, what was the core focus with Reactive Surfaces, and also you guys work with a lot of important people in the world, if I can say that.
I think they are. We definitely work for important people, and that is just humanity, okay? I mean, we got kids and grandkids, and we want to leave a better world for them. And so Reactive Surfaces, what we do in Reactive Surfaces is a combination of two different scientific disciplines, which is biochemistry or biotech with material science. In our case, that's paints and coatings. And our team, like I said, is professional coatings company. We don't manufacture things. We're just strictly in the innovation side of paints and coatings. And the way that we merge those two disciplines are we kind of turned the industry on its head a little bit, because in the paint industry, a lot of people have never really thought about this, but paints, they spoil. Okay, so they degrade and they spoil. They get microbes in them and they spoil. And usually, in the case of paint companies, they don't want to put things like biological molecules in their paint because they cause spoilage. Or that was the predominant thought in the industry. And in the way that we turned it on its head is that we started putting things like that are naturally occurring. They're non-toxic. They're all over you, like enzymes and peptides that are all over you right now and all of us. And so they're naturally non-toxic. And in fact, they're the things that kind of help us live, and they have functionality in nature. So there's, for instance, a lipase, an enzyme that breaks down greases, fats, and oils in nature. And that's not, we already know that functionality. That's not our science. What we do is we harness that power of that functionality, and we put that into a coding system and ask it to do in the coding system what it does in nature, and keep on doing it. Like an enzyme, as you know, keeps on working, right? So as long as the enzyme is in our paint, and that is the art of what we do, is to make it keep on working in the paint. As long as that paint is there, it's enzymatically active. And then we can spread it on surfaces. And for instance, if you're cooking chicken or vegetables you're frying them up in your kitchen, and you get grease everywhere. If you were to just leave that there, and you had this coating on your in your kitchen counters, then you could wake up the next day and it would all be broken down into its component parts, and you could just wipe it away. It wouldn't be oil anymore. It's broken down. And so that's kind of the nature of what we do, is we add functionality to paints and coatings, and that functionality is through biological molecules like peptides and enzymes that make it antimicrobial or fingerprint resistant or something like that. And they do it in a safe, non-toxic way.
Once again, listen to Refocus Radio, talking to our guest today, Beth McDaniel. You can go visit their website, reactivesurfaces.com. And what has been your experience being on the tech side? Because I understand that your husband is a scientist, but learning different things with what he does with the brand, what's some of the things that you've been able to learn yourself?
I mean, how much time do you have? Because I could go on and on about that, but I'll pick out a few key things, okay? And that is that science does not always proceed at the pace of business, okay? I mean, science, you have to take it slowly. If you want to do good science, okay, you can't jump from point A to point Z or point M, okay? You've got to go A, B, C, D. You got to prove it up along the way. And so what we've learned is, sometimes that doesn't happen in the time that business does. But if we really need to make something happen, then we can do that. And it just might take a little bit longer than you thought.
When you look at the whole debate of everyone talking about, climate change and this and that, what's some of the myths out there, if you will, that people kind of talk about that's not always understood? Well,
people get confused in deciding, whether it's man-made or not, a man-made problem. We are where we are. And there are definite tipping points that we're going to pass if we keep on in the trajectory that we're going. So it doesn't really matter even how we got here. Sure, there are natural climate patterns that occur, and that's usually the argument. And there's the people will say, "Oh, we're just in a natural climate change period," and that might be true, but because of all of the man-made emissions, that's going to send us over a tipping point. And if you really look at the trajectories of the increase in temperatures and extreme weather, we're in it. Okay. We're in it, and we're going to have to do something about it. There is not a choice anymore. We're going to start passing up tipping points. Like if we go above 1.5 degrees Celsius over pre-industrial levels, and we're at about 1.1 right now. Once we go up to 1.5, like all of the coral reefs in the ocean will start to die. And they already have started, but we might not be able to reverse it if we get too far into it. And we are going to pass up 1.5 probably in the next few years because of El Nino and some other things. And we're going to have to pull it back down. And I'll give you one other thing. This is because we are in the climate. We've developed a climate change technology in Reactive Surfaces. It's a paint that pulls down CO2 from the ambient air or from an industrial slipstream, let's say, like in a manufacturing facility. And so that paint pulls down CO2 and will hold it in the paint so that it's not re-released. Like in natural systems, that's what happens, is it's re-released in the natural system. And so what we are trying to do is what's called carbon removal. And carbon removal is not the same as reducing the impact or mitigating emissions. So, for instance, if you got a steel manufacturer and their emissions are really high, they need to bring those down. Carbon removal is something different. That's just pulling out CO2 from the ambient air, and it's what we call net negative technology. In addition to emissions reductions, we are going to have carbon removal technologies alongside that, working at the same time, to be able to not pass up those tipping points. And so what I'm describing that we've developed is a carbon removal system, and there's just not that many of them out there. So we really need to support those kind of technologies as well.
And with your background, being part of a law firm and just having that little knowledge, how has that also helped you navigate this whole world of business?
That's a great question. Yeah. So it really helps when you're in the innovation field if you have patent attorneys and you know how to protect IP, because if you've ever worked with big corporations, unfortunately, they'll steal it, a lot of times. And so you really have to protect your intellectual property. And that is what we do in our IP law firm that my husband and I formed together, because he's also an attorney as well. He's a patent attorney. And so once once we develop a technology, then we instantly we'll file a patent application. Usually we'll protect it in other ways that are outside of the patent agency. And then we will also start publishing on it. And once we publish it, and, we don't publish before we patent, right? Or protect it in some other way that we decide is the best way for that technology. And so then we can protect it and make sure that, it can get out there as soon as possible, because that's really important, but that it's protected so that people don't rip us off.
So on reactivesurfaces.com, you have a page where it's dedicated for frequently asked questions. Someone listening right now, and, they are really informed, educated on this topic. What else can they learn about the business as far as they have any more questions on maybe using the product? And if so, how can they be in touch with y'all?
Yeah. So this is a product that we would license. When I'm talking about like the carbon removal technology, this is something we would license to paint companies, and that hasn't happened yet. We are in the midst of building a pilot facility in Tracy, California. If someone wants to read about carbon capture technologies, which is what most people are really interested in these days, then actually we just were, there was an article done in USA Today last week. And so our paint is designed. It's a biomimic technology, and so we have mimicked the way that lichen work in nature. And so if you search, I don't know the link off the top of my head, but if you search USA Today lichen, it will come up first, and so they can find out more about the carbon capture technology. There's other places too that they could find out about that, but that's kind of a quick and easy way to get informed about it. And also we're an X Prize team. There's a lot of different X Prizes, and they're usually innovation-minded contests that try to drive innovation to solve a particular big problem, existential problem, food scarcity or clean water or something like that. Well, this is an X Prize that was sponsored by Elon Musk, and it's an X Prize for what I was talking about before, the carbon removal technology. So it's an X Prize to develop the best carbon removal technology, and it's the biggest contest prize purse in the world ever. $100 million is the prize purse for this, for the winner. For the top winners. And so we are a competitive team where you have to do a bunch of things in order to become a part of the contest. That was a few years ago. The contest ends on Earth Day, April 2025. So fingers crossed. We think that we are in it to win it. And we think we have a good chance at achieving the goals of that. So that's another place they can find out about us is on the X Prize Carbon Removal team. And we're called Team Lichen. Go to X Prize Carbon Removal. If you Google that and then Team Lichen will come up.
Nice. Well, congratulations on the opportunity. Sounds like a big deal. And I mean, come on, the Musk Foundation, that's huge. So congrats on that. When you look at this perspective of being part of your husband's vision with this company and this business, I know I did ask you about advice you have for people in business, but just from a perspective of being a leader with a certain brand and has a certain mission, what do you say to other leaders out there who have that responsibility to carry their brand and their mission?
Well, in my journey, I guess the most important thing to me is having real passion and about the topic and about your solution, and kind of knowing, I mean, I've done some human rights work in my past and stuff like that. And it's always been driven by the fact that I can't not do something about this. And I think, I'm sure you felt that way about certain things and other people, but you kind of stick with those emotions. If you feel like you've got to do something, find a way to take what you offer the world. I mean, for instance, what I offer the world is I'm not a scientist, okay, but I'm a lawyer and I'm a businesswoman and I'm an advocate. And I don't mind, telling it to the man how I feel and what I think they should do. And so I find that, I stay in my lane and do what I'm doing. And I expect other people that I work with to do the same thing and apply their experiences and their skills and their techniques to the project. So, I just think, if you can't not do something about it, then do something about it. But do something that you do well. I like to stick it to the man. That's one of the things I do well. And so that's where that's one of the things that I do. When I say that, I mean, hold people accountable, corporations and lawmakers and things like that. I want, they need to be accountable for things. And so, I'm there to hold them accountable.
Once again, listen on Refocus Radio, talking to our guest today, Beth McDaniel. You can go to the brand company website, reactivesurfaces.com. Again, that's reactivesurfaces.com. Go to the About page and also visit their frequently asked questions page to learn a little bit about their research and about their brand and their services and everything that they do, because it's videos. Like, y'all have videos, presentations that people can watch as well to learn about everything that you do. If you have anything else you'd like to share with our audience, what would you like to share with them?
Well, I just want people to know that climate change is real, but there are things that we can do, and there are things that they can do. I mean, keep on driving your electric cars and and recycling and all that. But every once in a while, if you feel like it, pick up the phone and call your lawmaker and tell them we need more carbon removal technologies to be funded. And that's not just ours, but there's plenty of room in this space. I mean, I applaud anyone that would contribute here, because we're all in this thing together, and we're all going to pay the price if we don't get there. So
once again, I want to say thank you for Beth McDaniel taking your time talking to us today. You can go visit reactivesurfaces.com. That's reactivesurfaces.com. Learn about the technology and amazing things that they're doing. And I want to say, appreciate your time.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.